3 FM.
Good evening, this is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live from our studios here at Adesawe, Kanda, Accra, and also live on Facebook at 3FM 927. Coming up tonight, Minister for Energy visits West Africa Gas Pipeline Company to assess ongoing maintenance works on pipelines as pressure mounts on government to resolve intermittent outages. We'll tell you more about the minister's store. Also tonight, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association suspends its intended strike following assurance by Health Minister Kwabena Kando that nurses and midwives recruited after December 7 will not be sacked. Later on, we tell you why some students of Salaga Senior High School who were remanded by the Salaga Magistrate Court for unlawful possession of firearm have been slapped with 1,200 Ghana cedis fine each, or in default serve a prison term of 6 months. We also know that the UK Deputy Prime Minister is in Ghana. We bring you details of that state visit. My name is Grace Hammoah. Agyemang. Details of these and more shortly. We'll bring you the details of all of these stories and more, but before that, Sarfoa Boahene is here to bring us the news summary. Sarfoa.
Thank you, Grace, and welcome to the news summary segment. For the details now, President John Dramani Mahama will deliver his first State of the Nation's address on Thursday, February 27, 2025. The announcement was made by Majority Leader Mahama Yariga in Parliament. The address will outline Ghana's economic situation, inherited challenges, and the government's recovery plan, according to Minister of State for Government Communications Felix Ofosu-Kwakye. Also, an Accra High Court has ordered WAEC to release the 2024 WASI results it had withheld over alleged malpractices. WAEC's attempt to delay the release was dismissed. The court fined the council 5,000 Ghana cedis. Away from that, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, GRNMA, has suspended its planned strike after assurances from Health Minister Kwabena Kando that no nurse or midwife recruited after December 7, 2024 will be dismissed. This follows the government's revocation notice affecting recent recruits. The minister reaffirmed the commitment during the Made in African Nurses and Midwives Conference in Accra. To our last story now, residents near the River Todzi in the Volta region have been warned against using the water following contamination from an agrochemical spill. The incident occurred on February 18, 2025, after a truck overturned in Togo, spilling chemicals into the river. The Volta Regional Coordinating Council's Chief Director, Augustus K. Awiti, stressed the need to assess contamination levels before declaring the water safe for use. And this brings us to the end of our news summary segment. And over to you, Grace.
Thank you very much, Sarfoa, bringing us the summaries of the major news stories there. For more on this, stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, or you can also log on to 3news.com and get all the details and updates there. Let's begin the bulletin from the energy front, because government is racing against time to ensure regular supply of electricity in the wake of recent intermittent outages being experienced across the country. The power challenge is partly due to the curtailment of gas supply by the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO. WAPCO is currently undertaking scheduled maintenance of its pipelines, and this has affected a number of generating plants that feed on WAPCO's supplies. As pressure mounts on government to end the power cuts, Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapor, today visited WAPCO to ascertain the state of ongoing maintenance works, which engineers say is about 70% complete. Speaking to journalists, Mr. Jinapor attributed the recent power crisis to a weak system the Mahama administration has inherited.
Producing just enough to supply the demand. But because we have no reserves, even if one plant develops a slight problem, it leads to a challenge. But the engineers are able to move quickly to resolve it. And so you realize that even when we have a slight challenge, within a couple of hours, it is restored. But if we had the reserve, if we had a backup, when one plant goes down, another plant quickly takes over. But because of what we inherited and the poor and fragile nature of the electricity system that we inherited, today we simply have no reserve margin, not even 1 megawatt of reserve margin. So occasionally and periodically, as we go through this 1 month period, if one plant develops a slight challenge, then you have the challenge that you witness and what you are talking about. But I thank the engineers. Anytime there's a challenge, they quickly move in and try to restore the plant back. And so rest assured, we are doing everything we can to ensure that we have supply of power. We'll continue to hold the system. But after the pigging exercise, we're going to see a very much more improved delivery of electricity power. And we'll have the redundancy and the margins that we require. But as I said, we have to deal with the financial challenges, which is also critical.
Meanwhile, the minister has also dismissed claims that the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, is being sold. He clarified that while government was seeking private sector participation, ECG is not up for sale. He's also been speaking about VRA ECG indebtedness to NCAS.
News items, the publication, and the commentary by some people who should know better that we are selling ECG is not true. It will not be sold, but we want some private sector participation to bring about a high level of efficiency, reduce the losses, increase the revenue base, so that we can pay for some of these bills we are talking about. The Minister of Finance, under normal circumstances, should not be taking the taxpayers' money, which could have been used for other development projects, to pay WACO. But today, we've had to squeeze and take money from the budget to pay NGAS for this $75 million. That could have been used for other developmental projects such as roads, hospitals, and other infrastructure projects. And that's why we are determined to ensure that we bring about efficiency by involving the private sector.
That was the Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Adelaide Jinapo, today, who was at WAPCO to ascertain the state of ongoing maintenance work, which engineers say is about 70% complete. Let's just take a look at the current power consumption situation and the impacts of the WAPCO's pipeline shutdown on supply. So we know that the projected electricity consumption is 4.7%, 1,148 watts, 24,688. That was what we were consuming in 2024. And coming here to this year, 2025, it is projected to go up by 25,836. And so we're expecting a 4.7% increment when it comes to that. When it comes to hydropower generation, last year, 2024, it was 9,943 watts per hour. And now we're expecting a 13.9% dip. So it is going to 8,561 watts per hour. Thermal power generation is, as compared to 2023, it was 14,199, 2024, 14,524, and going into this year, it is also projected to go up from 14,524 to 16,997. And the reason for the maintenance as given by WAPCO is that the WAPCO gas pipeline running through Togo, Benin, and Tema will undergo cleaning and inspection, and subsea valves will be replaced. The shutdown impact that almost everybody is experiencing now in some parts of the country is that during the maintenance period, all gas in the pipeline will be received in Takoradi, and there will be no reverse flow from Takoradi to Tema. Takoradi consumes less gas than what is available, leading to a significant operational shift. And implications for the gas supply disruptions include plants relying on gas from Tema, including Sinon, Asogli, Senpa, KTTP, and AXA will experience supply interruptions and may need to shut down unless they can operate on liquid fuel. So as a result, around 9,000 of excess gas from Nigeria will be delivered to Togo, and local gas production must be reduced by the same amount to avoid excess supply. The overall power shortfall, there'll be a shortfall of 1,100 megawatts, which is enough to power Greater Accra for 2 days, and 650 megawatts will also be required to maintain voltage levels, but this cannot be met with the current infrastructure. Well, and so those are the reasons and also the implications that WAPCO has been giving to government, and also explanation for the recent intermittent power supply that we have been experiencing in some parts of the country. The alternative to meeting this energy demand is that government or the country will rely heavily on hydro plants, including Akosombo, Bui, and Pong, to fill the gap. And looking for dual-powered plants include plants like AXA, Sinon Asogli, and KTTP that can run on liquid fuel, may be supplied with fuel to continue the operation. The cost for liquid fuel supply is $105.49 million, which will significantly increase the overall operational cost. And so these are the figures, as well as the numbers and explanation that WAPCO, as well as government, has been given to explain why there's been some form of intermittent power supply in some parts of the country. Let's move the story forward and speak to energy expert Nana Amuesi VII. He is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security. Nana, if you can hear me, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Grace.
Yes, Nana, so the Energy Minister says government has inherited a weak system which is partly to blame for the current power challenges. What is your own assessment of the situation? It appears the blame game, we're in a cycle of blame game.
Well, Grace, if you went back to, let's say, 2024, November, December, we had made it clear that, of course, we have a very delicate and weak power system. And that is, for real, it's not something that you need to redefine it. To the extent that we have inefficiencies in the ECG, to the extent that ECG is unable to collect sometimes even 50% of the expected revenue, and to the extent that they misapply and they don't comply with the cash waterfall mechanism, you definitely will have a cash flow constraint within the sector. And so utilities, including the IPPs, the other producers, the power transmitter, the fuel transmitter, and the others will struggle to perform right, because it is this same cash that lubricates the entire power sector. And so until we fix the inefficiencies in the ECG, for sure we're going to see pockets of power outages that we call them so.
And then again, the minister makes a point that the SO administration did not leave behind any buffers, a situation which has compounded our woes. Would you say what we're experiencing should be laid squarely at their doorsteps, or the NDC government gave the assurance that they are well able to do?
Well, Grace, I could give you and list our listeners the scorecard, and you can probably form your opinion because I want to probably not really be involved in the politics. But what we all know very well is that in 2017, 2018, the SWA government kept on, trumpeting that there's excess energy capacity. Today, can we boast of same? Not at all. We're almost neck to neck with our power, generation and demand, and we are struggling to maintain even the 18%, 20% reserve margin that is required to ensure, a reliable power, system. Our power demand, most often even during the peak hours, far outstrip what can be produced, because installed capacity is low. Sometimes even the installed capacity, you don't have them as available capacity because of a plant that's gone down for maintenance reason, or a plant that is shut down for reason of lack of fuel to run. And so today we don't have comfort when it comes to power generation and power demand equation. It is something that we must work fast to ensure that we increase our power generation demand, because whilst domestic consumption is growing, the export market, where we have the likes of Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso sourcing power from us, is equally growing. And you clearly have stated the expected growth in the sector by end of year. And for sure, if we don't work to ensure that in the next 18 months, we have increased our store capacity, trust me, it is another extended doom saw in the offing.
And now you say we're to expect another doom saw in the offing if we're unable to go through all of these. Is that a point you're making?
Exactly the case. If we don't, work to block the inefficiencies in the ECG, if we don't work at, investing in the aging infrastructure like the transmission and distribution grid, if we don't work to increase our power generation capacity, of course, we'll have to live and bear with doing so for quite some time.
Now, looking at that, we know the current maintenance works by WAPCO has affected generation, and we're seeing the effect already with the intermittent power supply in some parts of the country. What are the likely scenarios if they are unable to complete the maintenance within the scheduled time?
Of course, what will definitely happen is that government will keep on procuring or will be compelled to procure additional liquid fuels that are not so accessible compared to the natural gas and also costly relative to natural gas. And so if government have any challenge raising the needed fund to bring in the liquid fuel, then of course we'll still be seeing a pocket of outages. These are the issues. But from what WAPCO has given us today, it means that they are on course to finish the project on time. All things being going ahead, the project will be completed on time. And that will bring some relief to government because, one, you are struggling to bring in fuel for monetary reasons and also even on time because we failed to adequately plan for this program. All indications were given to us in October that will be done in December. We deferred it to January when we had not procured liquid fuel adequately to compensate for the loss of natural gas when the program kicked in. Yes, we sought for an extension, but the 3 weeks that was used to probably extend the program, it's not adequate enough to bring in the fuel because you could bring the fuel offshore, but getting a space within the discharge or receiving facility offshore is also difficult because there's something we call laycan, a space and a period within which every cargo or vessel can be accepted and discharged. We had a string of laycans for fuel that are coming to the market for consumption, and we did not plan for power fuel importation. Now that we planned by force, some liquid fuel that is coming to the market has to give way in terms of their vessels for this power vessels to come in. And it's not been easy over the past 2 weeks as we watch the space.
And then while we wait for WAPCO to finish this scheduled maintenance, is there anything government can do? Which other areas should we be looking at? Because Ghanaians will not take any excuse if the situation does not improve.
Yes, they have difficulty increasing the generation capacity and ensuring that we have full utilization of the thermal capacity. And so the next is to look at the hydro segment to increase the generation. Unfortunately, because we are almost off the rainy season, the water level in both Akosombo, Bon, and also even in Bui is dropping so fast. When the water level is dropping, you can't run all the turbines in your facility. You have to begin to reduce the number of turbines that can run and how much turbines can be accommodated by the water level. And if there is lower, that means that you are producing less from the hydro. That is another, big challenge at hand. But then if government get opportunity to bring in more fuel and there's money, that is the only source that we can look up to. There's no fuel coming from any source apart from this liquid fuel for thermal and the water in Bui, Bon, and Akosombo. Unfortunately, they're running down. it's drafting so fast.
Then another thorny issue when it comes to power supply electricity in the country is the privatization of ECG and whether or not to do that. The minister says government is seeking private sector participation and not outright sale. What is your understanding of government's policy regarding private sector participation? Should we be looking at going ahead to do that?
Yes, of course. I've not heard any government officials say that they're going to sell the ECG, but it's important, and it comes as a relief for the minister to re-echo or probably state it clearly that it's not for sale. But private sector participation is not new to government. We attempted same through the PDS approach, just that we don't know whether it's out of greed and or that we lost opportunity. But then the past government and the current government, they are all on the same page when it comes to running of ECG. They both believe that we must inject some level of private sector participation in the business of ECG in particular, so as to reduce their inefficiencies in the system. And so we are for that. But then it depends on the type of model they want to consider, whether it is the PPP, whether it's a concessionary agreement or any other model. But then we only need to perform the stress test and see which one is best suited in this case.
Now, before I let you go, the last time when the minister appeared before the Parliament Appointment Committee, he mentioned that government is looking at doing all of these engagement between the end of June and the end of the year, which is like in a period or in a space of 6 months. Elsewhere, is this time enough for government to do all of these engagement and take this bold decision?
Well, what we know is that government has kick-started stakeholder engagement, even from IESX. Government have engaged civil society, of which we are part. They are looking to receiving some proposal from civil society organizations, industry, and other groups. So the engagement has just started. The most important thing is to get it right, not when you got it right. But if it's going to take 1 year to get it right, it's better than to rush it and have the ECG PDS situation once more repeat itself. More transparent, a more inclusive type of engagement is important to give us that value for money we're looking for.
All right, Nana, thank you so much for talking to us. We have been engaging Nana Amwesi the 7th. He is Executive Director for the Institute for Energy Security, talking to us about the happenings in the energy sector, government's intention to privatize ECG, what we should be doing and what we should not be doing as a country, and also going forward, how the power situation looks like if WAPCO is not able to go through its scheduled maintenance works. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Let's do some more stories now, but move away from the power sector, because the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, GRNMA, has suspended its intention to strike. The association took that decision after receiving commitments from the Minister of Health, Kwabena Mintah-Akando, that no nurse or midwives recruited after December 7 will be sacked. Government had issued revocation statement for nurses and midwives who were recruited after December 7, 2024, a week after the sector minister, in addressing the meeting conference of African nurses and midwives in Accra, renewed commitment of government not to dismiss any health worker. We'll be listening to the minister and also work the phone to speak to our Labour correspondent, Daniel Opoku, who has been sitting through this conference and tell us more. Let's listen to the minister give the nurses that assurance, and then we'll speak to Daniel, our Labour correspondent.
To our Ghanaian nurses and midwives, you are invaluable to our country. As your Minister of Health, I want to assure you that my doors will always be open to hear your concerns, work with you to strengthen our healthcare system. I commend the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association for its tireless efforts in organizing this important conference. The Ministry of Health, including the Ghana Health Service and CHAC, has not terminated the employment of any health worker. We are committed to building and sustaining a strong health workforce.
Health Minister Kwabena Mintah Kando speaking at the maiden conference of African nurses and midwives in Accra, renewing commitment of government not to dismiss any health worker. President of the Association, Perpetual Furiampafo, also applauded the minister and government for rescinding its decision. She addressed the abuse received on social media platform when the association announced their intention to also go on strike. Let's listen to her.
But are you satisfied with the assurance given by the sector minister that no nurse will be dismissed?
Of course I am. I think as an honourable member of parliament, he took the floor of parliament and made certain statements. And today he's taking opportunity of our conference here, the African Nurses and Midwives Confederation Conference, to reiterate the point he had made in parliament. So why not? He is going to stick by it. And we've also assured him that as nurses and midwives in Ghana, we are ready to support the Ministry of Health and its agencies to ensure that the health agenda we have as a country, we are able to achieve it.
So we are not seeing any striking agitations on your front?
Not at all.
Because initially you are giving that indication.
Exactly, we had because of certain communications that had come out. But like I said earlier, the Honourable Minister has been very emphatic in his statement that no nurse or midwife or a health professional will be sacked or dismissed or suspended. So it puts to rest all the issues.
But you suffer some kind of backlash on social media. How are you able to handle that?
No, it's normal. For the work that we do, it's very normal. It's one of the hazards of the job. You put yourself in a place where those who are interested in doing partisan politics can hit you from any side. So all well and good. When the MPP is in government, they say I'm NDC. When NDC is in government, they say I'm MPP. It's normal. It's been going on for several years, and I'm used to it.
But when you say African nurses and midwives maiden conference, what is this about?
So you heard the president of the Nurses and Midwives Association, Perpetual Furiampafo, in that interaction with my colleague, Daniel Opoku, who is joining us on phone now. Danny, thank you for joining us. Talk to us about this internet strike by the association and why they decided to embark on that strike, even before we come to why they are rescinding the decision.
Right, so good evening to you, Grace. It basically has to do with the decision by the association somewhere last week through the president, when they got wind that the president President John Dramani Mahama had issued a revocation statement saying that all those who were recruited after the December elections were going to be asked to leave or vacate their posts. So they were in a meeting with the Minister of Health, but unfortunately, that meeting could not yield any maximum results. The reason they came out last week to say that the president should proceed, or the ministry should proceed to ask those people to exit their posts, then obviously they are going to have some kind of industrial unrest. But as at the close of last week and today, they have gotten a firm commitment that those people are no more going to be asked to leave. It's the reason she said that they are very much happy. They have applauded the president. They are going to work and collaborate with the president to ensure that there's a maximum collaboration and also there's effective work ethics within the workplace or within the health sector. So for the president of JNMA, she's very much happy that the president is not going to ask those people to leave their position.
So, Danny, how dire would have this been if these nurses had embarked on that strike? What is the number we're talking about?
Right. So, Grace, within the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, you are talking nurses of 20,000 of them nationwide, and if over 20,000 nurses are going on strike, obviously the health sector will be affected because when they are not at the workplace, the doctors find it very difficult to do their work, and when you go to the OPD treatment, OPD department, have a lot of the nurses and midwives at those places. So their absence from the wards, their absence from OPD department obviously will have a negative impact on the health sector. I do recall that somewhere in 2020 when they embarked on a strike, demanding some conditions of service, asking for allowances, the health sector was heavily impacted negatively, and that really affected a lot of lives. So to prevent that occurrence of that particular situation, obviously the president through the health minister must step in, which they have done currently, and they have been able to forestall any industrial unrest.
And Nani, going forward, do we know what next year action is going to be? Are they looking at engagement with the health ministry so that maybe the next change of government, they don't have to go through the same cycle? What do they intend to do next? When are they even going back to work?
Now, going forward, they are going to engage the Ministry of Health and also going to engage the Ghana Health Service. You know, the Ghana Health Service is an implementing agency of the Ministry of Health. So when the president issued a statement for people, those who were recruited after December election to exit their posts, the Ghana Health Service issued a statement asking those people, all of them, to leave their position. Now that the president has suspended that decision through the Ministry of Health, there's going to be a consistent engagement. They said they are going to engage the Ministry of Health to conduct an investigation. So all those who were recruited after December elections, so all those who did not go through the proper procedure and the proper processes are likely to exit their position. For now, they have renewed their commitment to collaborate with the Ministry of Health to conduct an investigation in the whole sector.
All right, Danny, that is good news for all of us, because one way or the other, we also use the health facilities. Thank you for bringing us.
Before you sign up, let me just quickly add that on the clock start issue, as I said to you, clock start is still on strike. They've had about 3 to 4 meetings today, but unfortunately, they have not been able to reach an amicable conclusion. So the strike.
Did you say 3 to 4 meetings today?
They've had about 3 to 4 meetings, but unfortunately, they have not been able to reach any firm conclusion. After the close of yesterday, President John Dramani Mahama asked the Minister of Labour, Jobs and Employment, Dr. Rashid People, to engage Clockstart. They've had other engagements, but unfortunately, they have not been able to reach an amicable solution. The strike is still on, and my understanding is that Clockstart is likely to have a National Executive Council. Then they will take a firm decision. Hopefully by close of day tomorrow up to Sunday, we are likely to have something positive on the labor front, where Clockstart is likely to call off strike. Then their members will go back to work.
If they don't do it, then it means that anyone who wants to engage the services of the MMDAs and other government agencies will still be in a stalemate because they are still on strike.
Absolutely, Grace. Already the strike is having an impact across the country. Those who visited some ministries and also the MMDAs have not been able to access any proper services, and that really is affecting government business. So they may have to, government must consistently engage them, convince them for them to call up. From next week is going to be extremely dire.
All right, Danny, thank you for bringing us the update. Danilo Poku is my colleague in the Labour Front, updating us on happenings there. In a related development, a group of newly posted teachers have decried the revocation of the appointments by the Ghana Education Service, GES, to Education Service, acting on the directives of the Chief of Staff, Julius Debra, revoked the appointment of teachers recruited after December 7, 2024. In a statement, however, the concerned newly posted staff of GES described their termination as unjust and inconsistent with the government's own stated position on the matter. According to them, their appointment was secured long before the December 7 election, after a rigorous selection and recruitment process set out by the GES. They say the directive to dismiss them unfairly extends the revocation beyond the scope of the Chief of Staff's directive, unfairly targeting teachers who rightfully obtain their positions in accordance with due process. They have appealed to the government to intervene on their behalf. Daniel Anoche is convener of the concerned newly posted staff of GS. He joins us on the phone for more. Mr. Anoche, how did you receive the information about your termination?
Good evening, and good evening to your lovely listeners. The information was shared across the various media outlets that our appointment has been revoked, and we find out quite disturbing, because looking at things, the way that we went through the rigorous process, there was an advertisement. We went through the rigorous process before we got our appointments, way before the 7th of December. And we have, some of us are at post, others are at various stages of the recruitment process. And our names are not on the pay list as it stands. But per the directives of GES, they are saying that all members whose names are not on the payroll to have their appointment revoked. And that is a bit contrary to the directive of the Chief of Staff, where the Chief of Staff says that those who were employed after the 7th of December. So we don't understand why we are being affected by this situation.
You make the point that you were recruited and you went through the necessary procedure. Tell us more when you were recruited and how, especially on the when.
Okay. It was advertised on the 3rd of August that GES will be opening its portal for qualified applicants to apply. We did that from the 3rd of August to 10th of August. And on the 11th of November, we had our appointment letters printed out from our various portals, the qualified applicants. GES then came back and tell us that the application process is in batches, and so therefore other batches are supposed to follow suit. And it was that way. It wasn't our fault that the application process delayed. And the GES process is rigorous in the sense that when you get your appointment, you would have to forward it to a regional level to get regional appointment, and that could take about a month. And so therefore, we have to wait a bit for the region to get a master list from GES in order to confirm that our appointment is indeed genuine. And then from there, you take it to the various district levels for further processing before you move to your school for assumption of duty. And then you have to teach a bit before you get your staff ID, before you are placed on the payroll. And we received our appointment way before the 7th of December. So we did the necessary process. And so if there is a delay, it is not our fault that there is a delay and that our names are not on the pay list yet, on the payroll yet. So we find it that the GES directive is very contrary to the directive of the Chief of Staff.
Exactly. Your statement, you say in your statement that the GES has extended its termination beyond the Chief of Staff's directive. Why do you say so?
Because the Chief of Staff directive states clearly that appointment that was made after the 7th of December has to be revoked. And ours was made, our appointment letter was dated on the 8th of November. So we don't know how GES have extended it to
include you
but not on the payroll. And the funny thing is, before our appointment, there was appointment for staff, those from colleges. And some of them are yet to receive their staff ID and to be placed on the payroll. And they have been at post for about 3 to 4 months now. Some of us, we've moved from our various places to our post-rented rooms, and we are in the classrooms teaching. And now GES are saying they have revoked our appointment. So we find that we can't accept that.
How do you intend to fight this case? Do you intend to fight the case, or you want some intervention by the powers that be?
We want an intervention from the powers that be, because the Chief of Staff's letter is a clear letter stating that appointment made after 7th December. Ours, we received our appointment on the 8th of December. So we find it quite disturbing that GES rather extends it to those whose name hasn't appeared on the payroll.
And have you engaged the GES on this? What do they tell you?
We've made steps to engage the GES. We've also engaged our various teacher unions to come on our behalf, because we could see that during the same altercation with the nurses, how the General Nurses and Midwifery Association supported their folks and had the decision rescinded. So we are also calling on teacher unions to back up on this, to make sure that the government will send its decision on the revocation of our appointments.
All right, Mr. Anoche, thank you for talking to us. Daniel Anoche, he is the convener of the concerned newly posted staff of GES, who are saying that a directive by the Chief of Staff for the revocation of appointment after the December 7 does not include their appointment, which was dated November 8, and so they don't want the GES to include them in that. We'll see how that pans out. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We'll bring you more stories. Well, let's still stay on the education front, because 3 students of the Salaga Senior High School who were remanded by the Salaga Magistrate Court for unlawful possession of firearm have been slapped with a 1,200 fine each, or in default serve a prison term of 6 months. They were also made to sign a bond of good behavior for 12 months. All 3 accused persons earlier pleaded guilty to unlawful possession of firearm. Let's connect with our reporter who has been following the beat. Christopher, bring us the background to the story.
So early this month, February, around 4th February, 20 students of the Salaga Senior High School were arrested by police in Salaga following some all fights that erupted between the students. When the students were arrested, a locally manufactured pistol was also found on one of the students, and so they were taken to the Salaga police station. Same day, 17 of them were granted bail, leaving 3, and so they were processed for court. When they got to court, the court granted them bail, even though they had pleaded guilty to the charges of unlawful possession of firearms. And so they were made to reappear today in court. And so when they appeared today in court, based on their earlier plea of guilty, the presiding magistrate went straight to actually give them a fine of 1,200 Ghana cedis each, and they were also made to sign a bond of good behavior for 12 months. That is 1 year.
Christopher, so talk to us about the proceeding in court, the demeanor, the argument made by their counsels and all that happened.
Yes, so earlier the parents of these 3 students had been to the police station because the school children were made to report to the police station before today's proceedings. And so according to the magistrate, they had showed remorse and regret over the action. And so that was why he did not give them any custodial sentence and asked them to go and be of good behavior. And so the parents have also indicated that when they get home, they will go and talk to the children so that they will be of good behavior and complete the school. Now that the court case is over, it is now left with what the decision the school will take on these 3 students as to whether they are going to suspend or sack them. That is yet to be determined by the school.
And have you been able to engage the authorities on even what this sentencing means to ensuring discipline in the school and maybe even in the community?
Yes, so I haven't had any engagement with school authorities because since the incident broke, they have remained mute about it. They have always referred me to the municipal director of education, who also has been referring me to the regional director of education. But what we do know is that their parents and other community members who were in court today emphasized that the decision by the court is welcoming and that it will serve as a deterrent for them, even though the parents are those to bear the cost. But they believe that even going into police cells is an indication that it will warn the students not to go and repeat same on campus.
And you said the sanction is 1,200 for each person, or they will serve a 6-month jail term.
So 1,200 Ghana cedis for each, or they are going to serve 6 months in prison if they are unable to pay. But before close of work today, all 3, I'm told, have been able to pay the 1,200 Ghana cedis and have been let to go home.
All right, Christopher, thank you for those updates. Christopher Mako, my colleague in the Northern Region, updating us on that Salaga Senior High School students who were remanded by the Salaga Magistrate Court for unlawful possession of firearms. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Stories we have brought you so far. Minister for Energy visits West Africa Gas Pipeline Company to assess ongoing maintenance works on pipelines as pressure mounts on government to resolve intermittent outages. Also, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association suspends its intended strike following assurance by Health Minister Kwabena Mintakando that nurses and midwives recruited after December 7 will not be sacked. We just heard the update on the students of Salaga Senior High School who were remanded by the Salaga Magistrate Court for unlawful possession of firearms, and they have been slapped with 1,200 Ghana cedis fine each, or in default serve a prison term of 6 months. We have sports, business, and a lot more coming up shortly after this break. Stay with us.
of your game.
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helena Piampofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana governor signals willingness to extend April deadline for restructured cocoa bonds and our domestic debt exchange program to support struggling banks. My name is Menu Afo. We'll bring you details of this and more shortly. Please stay. Now, the details. The Bank of Ghana has signaled a willingness to extend the April 2025 deadline for the special dispensation on restructured cocoa bonds under the domestic debt exchange program. This follows concerns raised by the Ghana Association of Banks that the current market conditions and cocoa board's financial position make it difficult for banks to sell these bonds. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
During a high-level meeting with the Governing Council of the Ghana Association of Banks, industry leaders expressed concern over the continued illiquidity of the cocoa bonds, making it difficult for banks to offload them. They argued that without an extension, the financial strain on banks could worsen, affecting their ability to lend to businesses and households. The governor acknowledged the concerns and assured the banks that the central bank is open to discussions on extending the dispensation. He noted that any decision will take into account the broader economic impact and ongoing efforts to stabilize the financial sector. The meeting also touched on other key issues, including liquidity constraints, FX market efficiency, and credit rating challenges. The governor emphasized his commitment to continuous engagement with banks to address sector-wide challenges and ensure financial stability.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report on Bank of Ghana's willingness to extend the April 2025 deadline for special dispensation on restructured cocoa bonds under the DDEP. Now, Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies has called for increased investment in Ghana's oil storage and transport infrastructure to enhance energy security. According to COMAC Vice Chair Philip Teku, prioritizing pipelines and railway systems will provide a more efficient and cost-effective way to distribute fuel nationwide, ultimately benefiting consumers.
If there's any major attack on our country in Tema, we lose all our storage infrastructure. So we should have storage infrastructure ideally across the whole country, so that if there's any incident in Tema, we are not exposed. But we haven't backed it up with the right investments. We've encouraged an environment where capital is allocated to BRBs rather than capital being allocated to pipelines or railway infrastructure to feed these terminals. Yeah. So as we speak, I understand the situation, but I think we need an urgent solution to making the transportation of fuel between bus depots operationally efficient. Because I would want to take products from any of the depots, bus depots, if it wasn't an artificial creation of one BRB taking products to that depot for me to go and take it again. If we are going to continue with bust and zonalization, I think there's an urgent need that we fix the infrastructure deficit. Because without that, what we are doing is encouraging the efficiency to be passed on to customers.
And that was Vice Chair of Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, Philip Teku. Away from that, giant oil exploration firm Tullow PLC has reaffirmed the company's long-term commitment to Ghana's energy sector, emphasizing the potential of gas as a key driver of economic growth. Meeting with President John Mahama, he also highlighted Tullow's investment in local communities, including a $10 million pledge to improve educational infrastructure.
Tullow PLC board chairman Putuma Enhleko has assured President John Mahama of the company's commitment to the stability and growth of Ghana's energy sector. Speaking at a meeting with government officials, Enhleko emphasized the importance of gas in driving economic development and called for business-friendly environment to boost investor confidence. President Mahama, in response, acknowledged the crucial role of the energy sector in Ghana's economic advancement, stressing the need for policies that attract investment. Tullow Ghana's Managing Director, John Medad Madama, and Deputy Managing Director Cynthia Lumo joined the high-level discussions alongside Energy Minister John Junapo and other key stakeholders. Beyond its economic growth, Tullow is investing $10 million over 5 years to enhance educational infrastructure in 15 senior secondary schools. The company also continues to support coastal livelihoods through initiatives like the Fisherman's Anchor Project, which provides job opportunities for fisherfolk in the western region.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on Tullow PLC reaffirming its long-term commitment to Ghana's energy sector. Now, as part of its commitment to fostering business growth, PAYAZA has launched its SME Thrive initiative, a strategic program aimed at supporting small and medium enterprises in Ghana with up to 15 million cedis fund to boost growth. There's more in the following report. The SME Thrive initiative marks PAYAZA's official entry into the Ghanaian market, having secured its full operational license. According to Group Chief Executive Sei Ebenezer, the initiative is designed to provide financial and strategic support to small and medium-sized businesses, enabling them to scale, enhance productivity, and access seamless digital payment solutions.
Ghana, a total population of about 34 million people. Consider about 70% of this market is SME. So what we then came here to do is just to empower the SME space through our payment solutions, through all of the offerings that we have across our own product rail. So we're essentially here to support SME businesses and empower them through payment, exposing them to the world at large.
Chief Executive for North America and Group Chief Technology Officer Phillips Akinyele stressed the initiative will provide SMEs in Ghana access to funding up to 15 million cedis and empower businesses.
Our vision is simple, is to build a trusted gateway for the rest of the world to do business with Africa. And that's one of the commitment that we fulfill on a daily basis. And that is what is directly connected to our expansion strategies and directly helping African businesses to be able to not only accept payment from the rest of the world, but to be able to build economic prosperity.
5 SMEs registered with PAYAZA were given the opportunity to pitch their businesses and their societal impact. The overall winner, Edanra, took home 45,000 Ghana cedis. Co-founder and Chief Executive Bill Kobner expressed his excitement.
We came here to participate in the competition and then we get to work out with the grand prize. So of course we're happy about it. What to do with the money? On board more tenants. Essentially what our business is about is providing credit to tenants such that so that tenants don't pay rent in bulk, as is the dynamic in Ghana. We pre-finance rent for people, we take on their leases so that they can pay rent on a monthly basis with some flexibility.
PAYAZA aims to empower and secure seamless transactions across Africa, prioritizing employee growth and satisfaction. Now that will be all for Business News on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com. My name is Minu Afo. Stay tuned. Sports News is up next.
evening and welcome to the sports here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo. Let's start off from Ghana football, where the Ghana Football Association President Kurt Okraku met with Asante Kotoko yesterday for the first time since Nana Pole's tragic passing, while earlier reports suggested the Ghana Premier League could resume on March 1. Our sources in Kumasi indicate that Asante Kotoko prefers the league rather restarts after Nana Pole's final funeral rites on March 6. My colleague Richard Agyemang has more in the following report.
One of the key things that was discussed at the meeting was when Asante Kotoko will return to the Ghana Premier League. Now, when that particular topic or issue was raised, what we are gathering is that the Asante Kotoko management and their fans told Kurt Okraku that they can only play competitive football after the final barrier of Nana Pole. And what we hear is that the management of Asante Kotoko told the GFA president that that decision has been taken already by the club's owner and life patron, Otumfo Osei-Tutu Abibio, and that they are in no position to be able to alter what has been said by the great king. And so Asante Kotoko will only play football after the final barrier of Nana Pole. Remember, Nana Pole will be buried on the 6th of March.
So that was my colleague Richard Agyemang. Following yesterday's meeting with Asante Kotoko, President Kurt Okraku also went on to urge anyone with information on the identity and whereabouts of Nana Pole's killer to come forward and ensure that justice is served.
When that singular act happened in Instrateman or Instratre, there was a human being with that person who used the knife or whatever it is to take the life of Nana Pole. That person must be honest. That person who was the killer must be honest and come out to tell us where the killer is. If that person is honest, if that person loves life, if that person loves football, this is the time for that person to be honest to football by telling us where that killer is. Because wherever that killer is, we will chase he or she out of their hiding place or his hiding place and bring him or her to justice.
And so we just heard from Kurt Okraku, who is the president of the Ghana Football Association. Still on Ghana football, former Black Stars assistant coach George Boahene has been linked with the move to championship side Blackburn Rovers. The former Dutch international, who was part of Ghana's coaching staff at the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, believes that the team's struggles have also deepened following their absence from this year's tournament.
I'm a believer, a very strong believer in continuity. And I said this straight after the tournament, also in the media, that as disappointing as it is, as the federation have to analyze and you have to go in depth to see where the mistakes were in terms of management, players, staff, and then you replace those that were not competent enough. Whether it be a playing body or a staff member or a technical staff member, and then you rebuild on that. But I'm not so sure if that has been done after the African nations, because you can see that after I left, we've now have a bigger slide, because at least when I was there, we qualified. And we were unlucky not to get out of the group stage.
Did you resign or were you fired?
Oh, we were all fired on the spot.
And so that was George Boahene. Away from the local scenes, let's move to Europe, where the Champions League contenders have learned their path to Munich after the last 16 quarter-final and semi-final draws were made on Friday. The 8th round of 16 ties in the Champions League are now set, and the matches would see some heavyweights coming up against each other. The draw sees Club Brugge face Aston Villa, Borussia Dortmund against Lille, PSV come up against Arsenal, while holders Real Madrid will host city rivals Atletico Madrid. The only Italian club left, Inter Milan, will lock horns with Feyenoord. Bayern Munich would face Leverkusen in an all-German encounter, whilst Benfica battle Barcelona in a mouth-watering encounter. Should see Paris Saint-Germain face Liverpool as well. Let's hear from head coach of FC Barcelona, who believes that despite talks of his club getting a favourable draw, there's still a lot of work to be done.
I think really it's a tough match because they are doing really good. We could see it in Benfica. They hurt us a lot on this day, and you can see also in the last round in the Champions League. There is no opponent you can say it's easy to play against him or to win against him. So it's for everyone now in this situation, in this round. It's a very tough match.
That was head coach of FC Barcelona, Hansi Flick. Let's do the Premier League, where head coach of Manchester United, Ruben Amorim, believes his side are now buying into his ideas. The Portuguese tactician has struggled in his early days in the Premier League, but is still confident that his side will eventually improve.
What I see in training is that they are improving, they are creating relationship, and even the sound of the training is different. Like I said, we have to use that in the game, and we have to see it in the game, and we have to take that step. I feel it in training that we are bonding and we are understanding the way we want to play, but then in the game I feel that we struggle.
Still on the Premier League and in Manchester, Pep Guardiola, who's the head coach of Man City, has shared some words of praise for Liverpool ahead of their clash on Sunday. City will face the Reds at the Etihad, and Pep believes that Liverpool's impressive performance this season goes down to their level of consistency.
But the level of consistency quite similar with Jurgen, so deserves to be up there. Close to with Arsenal fighting for the title, so big compliment. So top team in many aspects. Otherwise, cannot be just lost. I think one game in the Premier League, so that's why good test for us.
Well, unlike Liverpool, Chelsea have struggled for consistency, and Enzo Maresca has reiterated that everyone at the club is determined to make sure that Chelsea gets to where they deserve. Now, the Blues have had a mixed bag of results this season and currently sit in the 6th position after spending a considerable amount of time in the top 4. In a pre-match interview before the Blues face Aston Villa on Sunday, Maresca assured fans that he had in his arsenal to bring back Chelsea back to the glory days.
Since day one, I joined this club, and my intention is to win games, to win titles, and to bring this club where this club deserves to be. Okay, I said this since day one, and if you review all my press conference, I always repeat the same. The problem is, as I said, when you win, you look humble. When you don't win, you look like a lack of ambition. I'm ambitious, the club is ambitious, we have the same manager, same players, and same sport director, same owners than 2 months ago when we were second in the league. So nothing changed. The only thing changed is that unfortunately we are dealing with many injury, and this affects a little bit the level of the team.
Before we go, let's touch on the latest tennis updates, where world number 3 Carlos Alcaraz suffered a shocking exit from the Qatar Open, losing to Costa Rican Yuri Yeherka in the quarterfinals of the competition on February 20. Despite mounting a comeback in the second set, Alcaraz could not complete the turnaround and ultimately fell 6-3, 3-6, 6-4 in an intense contest. The defeat marked a major upset in the tournament, especially following world number 7 Novak Djokovic, his surprising 4th round loss to Italy's Mario Berrettini. That's all that we have for you for sports here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Ore Kwampofo. You can get the latest sports updates on our social media at 3SportsGH and also on our website 3news.com/sports. My name is Ore Kwampofo.
You're still on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Just gone by was business with Menu Afol and also Reku Ampa for bringing us the latest when it comes to the world of sports. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Let's go into some more stories now. And with the announcement by government to reintroduce road tolls, the Center for Employment for Persons with Disability is hoping to get more of its members employed. President of the center, Alexander Kojo. I beg your pardon, President of the Center, Alexander Kojo Tete, says though those persons with disability who were laid off as a result of the toll abolishment have been given jobs, a lot more of its members remain unemployed. He has been speaking with my colleague, Evelyn Tegma, in this report. I apologize. We'll bring you that report shortly. We are also working the phone to speak to Alexander Kojo Tete, who will join us shortly on what their level of engagement has been with the ministry on the reintroduction and what more their members are looking at. But away from that, Nanaya Osei, who is lawyer for Gregory Afoko, who is accused of involvement in the murder of former NPP Upper East Regional Chairman Adams Mahama, has asserted that his client's trial was politically motivated. The Osei's comments come after his client was granted bail by the Accra High Court following nearly a decade of him being on remand. The Accra High Court earlier today granted Gregory Afoko bail in the amount of 500,000 cedis. The conditions include 2 sureties. Each should be justified with landed property. The court also ordered Gregory Afoko to report to the police CID once every 2 weeks until the case is concluded or determined. His lawyers filed the bail application on Monday, February 17, his third attempt since his trial began in 2015. Lawyer Nanaya Osei noted Gregory Afoko's trial was politically motivated. Let's listen to the lawyer.
I have always thought that Afoko's trial had more to do with politics than a simple criminal matter. There were people within his big brother's party who wanted to do him in. Nobody can convince me that there wasn't any political hand pushing the matter. Why would the police decide that they won't bring somebody to come and execute a bail bond? You think the police on their own, what interest did they have? Somebody clearly was pushing the police. And I say this.
Nanaya Osei is lawyer for Gregory Afoko, who has been granted bail after 10 years in remand. Let us take you back to that story on what the Center for Persons with Disability is hoping to get after the announcement of the reintroduction of road tolls by the government. The director of the center has been speaking with my colleague, Evelyn Tegma.
In 2021, over 300 persons with disability who manned the toll booths as attendants lost their jobs after government decided to abolish the collection of road tolls. 283 were engaged by the Youth Employment Agency in 2024 to serve as gender and disability officers. The remaining 50 to 60 persons were also engaged between November and December last year.
They were posted to all the districts, the district assemblies, as gender and disability officers to advise the district assembly on the youth employment programs, how they could rope on disabled people onto the program. The rest, who were about between 50 to 60, were also put on the youth employment program called the BIP, where they were also posted to work with the disability organizations in the districts and the regions and the national. With the new government, we don't know whether the new government will continue with the BIP program. Because the BIP program is like you are a beneficiary, you are not a staff.
Persons with disability currently forms 15% of the country's population. Reason President of the Center for Employment Persons with Disabilities, Alexander Kojotete, is advocating for more employment. He says separate meetings with the Transport and Roads and Highways ministers were fruitful. He is positive that the reintroduction of the road tolls, though automated, would see some of their members employed.
During his vetting, he mentioned that the road toll will come back, but it will not come back like it used to be. It will be automated. And so we discussed how that arrangement will go. Automation means that we will need some skills, and our people need to be trained to be able to operate. Assurance was given to us that all those things will be considered.
But is the toll collection the only job for PWDs?
That is not the only. But it's an opportunity for also persons with disabilities. You know, the toll booths provide a fantastic opportunity because it has to do with sitting down and collecting money. But the plan is that a place like DVLA, where they collect to not only the roads, but anywhere they collect to persons with disabilities will be employed. And this, we are talking about people who have little or no qualification.
So you had presidents of the sector, Alexander Kojotete, in that report with my colleague, Evelyn Tengma. He's joining us on phone now. Mr. Tete, thank you for speaking to us. We had you in that report with my colleague, Evelyn Tengma, on the call you're making that persons with disability gets more of the job opportunities. Talk to us about the level of engagement between you and government or the ministry, even on the reintroduction of the tolls or even other areas that you're seeking to get employment for your people.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I was saying that we have already heard you talk to my colleague Evelyn on how you want government to give a lot more employment opportunities to persons with disabilities. Update us on the level of engagement between you and the ministry on the reintroduction of road tolls, or even if you're looking at other areas for these employment opportunities.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Engagement has been on a very high level because today I, together with the members of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organization, met with the Minister for Roads and Highways, Honorable Kwame Agboja, and then we discussed extensively the road toll, the reintroduction of the road toll, and how persons with disabilities will be given opportunities to gain employment in the road toll program when it is established again.
And the minister says that the new introduction will not see people seated in toll booths to collect the money. Do we know how your people are going to be enrolled onto the new system?
Yes. So whatever system that is put in place, or whether it's going to be automated, I believe that it would demand a kind of top-up skills or training. And so our people will be taken through that training, will be taken through how the system will work, and then they will be engaged. So that has been discussed extensively today.
Okay, and for your people, how are you preparing them or getting them ready for these new opportunities?
Yeah, so as for persons with disabilities, they are there with their qualification and skills. So if we get to know, if the system is set up and we get to know the basic qualifications that are demanded, we just go into our database and get the requisite people and prepare them for this the toll booth program.
All right, Mr. Tete, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, too.
Okay. We have been speaking with President of the Center for Persons with Disability, Alexander Kojotete, on preparedness of PWDs, even as government also prepares to roll out the new phase of the road toll policy. Away from road tolls, to declare or not to declare a state of emergency, that is the ongoing debate between players in civil society as the Galamsey conversations return to the front burner of media coverage. Land Minister Emmanuel Akrofi Boah's revelation that some 9 forest reserves have been lost to the activities of illegal miners has sparked concerns, with experts demanding action and not words from the new government. Speaking to the challenges, convener of the media coalition against Galamsey, Dr. Kenashigbe stressed the need for a state of emergency.
If there were any terrorists in any portion of Ghana's territory, we will know how to deal with them. And it's the reason why immediately the president came, the coalition wrote to the president, and we issued a statement. And we reminded the president that the elements of our ask when His Excellency Nana Addo was also in power was one of them. The first one was a declaration of the state of emergency over our water bodies and the forest reserves. So if you have a situation where 9 of our forest, and there are a lot of excavators that are within that particular place, and you know that excavators are not like mobile phones you put in your pocket and you can sneak into these places. They were driven past a lot of our barriers with police mounting them. We have CCTV, strewn all around most of our major roads and all of that. But we, even in civil society and the media, knew about these things. And that's the reason why we said the state of emergency was necessary in these places. And so it is important for the president that we need to recover these particular places, and we need to declare the state of emergency over, to make sure that we can take control, because no group of people are more powerful than the state. And we need to establish that as quickly as possible so that we don't move from 9 to the others. We're talking about carbon trading. We're talking about all of these things that now are the new ways of raising funds and all of that. How are we sacrificing all of that in the midst of the deaths that are happening, in the midst of the poisoning of our land, in the midst of, the renal diseases that are on the increase? So it is important that we take decisive action against these criminals, and we need to ensure that we're not going to tolerate this.
Well, the opinion, however, was rejected by security analyst and dean of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center, Professor Kwesi Enin, who argues enough can be done without a state of emergency.
Let me make it very clear that if the state of Ghana and those who lead it are sincere in bringing this thing under control, it can be brought under control. It can be brought under control very quickly. The other point is that, you see, declaring a state of emergency and using curfews are a very lazy way of responding to problems that we have. A state of emergency presupposes that we need to use extraordinary powers beyond the norms or the procedures of normal politics to be able to do that. But we as a nation have allowed, individuals and groups of individuals who are connected to the elites to flout the law. Okay? So we need to empower those who need to get it done, to get the job done.
Kwesi Enin is a security analyst and dean of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center. Professor Kwesi Enin, I must say. Now, the latest on this Galamsey fight is that President John Mahama has directed the Forestry Commission and the military not to burn seized excavators of Galamsey operators. With a renewed approach to fighting Galamsey, the president says there is a targeted effort to get Galamseyers out of forest reserves as governments will roll out a more scientific and technological efficient approach towards mining. President Mahama made this known when the leadership of the Christian Council paid a courtesy call on him at the seat of government. We'll bring you a lot more on this story in our subsequent bulletins, or you can log on to 3news.com and get some more stories.